Welcome back to the sim. So in this one, we're going to take the working title G1000 NXi 0.7 for a spin. We're going to use a short flight. We're going to do KMRY to KSNS. So it's a short flight. We're just going to stay with the default weight and balance. So standard fuel, standard weight and balance. We're going to be using the Bonanza G36 because I like it. You'll notice we have just selected Monterey, KMRY for our departure. We're not going to put anything else in. We're going to do that all inside the NXi. So let's go ahead, hop on in. So one of the first things we want to do is plan the flight. We might as well throw in a quick one using Navigraph Charts. There's lots of ways to do this. You'll see I already did it earlier for the Discord, but we'll start as if we were doing it new. I'm going to manually input it. We want to go KMRY, and we've got our destination. I'm not going to bother with an alternate. Now you can auto-generate and use low airways and hit create. And so we'll do this because literally it would just do it direct. So now I'm going to want to modify this. So one of the easiest things to do is open up the type in, because then I can just delete all this, hit enter, and it'll make it direct anyway. So first up, we want to depart off of runway 28 left. So we're going to hit the runway. We're departing off of 28 left. So that's selected. Then what we're going to do is we're going to pick our departure. And what's great is, well, from 28 left, there's only the MRY5. So we're going to go ahead and add that. And you can see it's drawn what the departure is in. And then what we can do is go to the approach. And what was requested was the RNAV Yankee 31. So if we look at rank or BSR, from where we're going, we're going to pick BSR. And the reason for that is, well, Big Sur is over here, and we're coming up there, and that aligns with an airway as well. Now, we could just go direct from Shui to that point. That's why there's this dotted line. It doesn't really know how we're getting there. So again, we could come in and we could insert before. I find that it's real easy to just go ahead and type in the route. So we're going to go Shui, Victor 27 to BSR, and we'll hit enter. And just like that, Shui, Victor 27. And what's great is it'll automatically drop the other waypoints on that leg. Now it's pretty much a straight shot. You could have also just gone direct to BSR. That's why we use these Victor Airways, is that way you put in where you're getting on, you put in where you're getting off, and it builds all of the other waypoints into it automatically for you. So now that we've got that, let's go ahead, hop back into the sim, and start working on it in the G1000. So here we are on the ground, and we want to go ahead and bring up our flight plan. And we're going to turn the big knob. Oh, that doesn't work anymore. No, because they implemented all those extra cool pages. No, what we've got to do is when we bring up the flight plan, we have to click on the cursor. Then we can drop in and we can go ahead and we can type in our facility. So we are starting at KMRY. And I do have physical knobs, so I like turning them. Of course, we do have the option to capture the keyboard, which we'll show you in a second. All right, so KMRY, hit enter. We are going to be off of runway 28 left. Gotta love that. So if we come in now, we know that we are going to be doing a procedure. And we want to select our departure. And it's going to be the off of 28. There's our sequence. Transition is to Shoei. Go ahead and load. So right away, you could see it has nicely built our departure out to Shoei. So now we want to come in. We want to go to the en route. And again, you just turn that little knob and it will bring it up. Now you'll notice there's also this little keyboard icon. So from Shoei, we actually want to enter the airway. So Shoei, and now, actually, can we hit menu there? Yeah, so from there you can't. I think you have to come here. And this is where you can load airway. So that's why we're doubling up Shoei. So we're going to go ahead and load the airway. And of course, it nicely depicts them for us. Loading. And we want to exit at BSR. So that's how easy it's going to be. It shows us all of our sequences. So seg, penny, pebs, KMRY, whatever. BSR, that is correct. There we go. We've got our entire airway all the way to BSR. And then you'll notice it ended up popping Shoei back in. So I think that's a problem where it wouldn't let us do it off of the other piece. But that's okay. We can just clear this guy. Click OK. He's gone. So now that's going to get us to BSR. And then our destination, we'll go ahead, click into that area. You'll notice it jumps in. Highlight that guy. And we are going to KSNS. Good old Salinas. And then we press enter to accept. And we are going to go ahead and we're going to pick runway 31. And there is our destination. Okay, so now at our destination, we want to go back to procedure. And we're going to load our approach. And we are going to do the RNAV Yankee 31. We're going to do it from BSR. What is the minimums? Well, let's quickly jump over again. So if we go ahead and we click on that and we look at the chart, LNAV MDA is going to be 440 feet. So since we'll be getting an LPV, even though technically it's an LNAV with V, good enough. So we need 440 feet MSL. So there we go. We're going to big knob on the barrow, small knob, adjust it to 440 feet. And then we go ahead and we load that in. Then we press our cursor so we can scroll down through and we see 1100 feet. We've got our turn, intercept. We go to Shoei. And then from Shoei, we're going to jump on the airway, get off at KMRY because once we loaded the RNAV, it reset it for BSR. So there we go. Everything is nicely in. So now that we're done there, let's pop out. We can see what we've got. Go ahead and put our range out just a little bit. A little 5 nautical. So you can see our flight path. All right, so let's go ahead, hop on over, and get everything set up. Looking at the PFD, normally that would have been off. So the first thing we want to do is we'll go ahead and hit our flight director. Now notice if we didn't hit flight director, if we decide we were going to fly heading, it's automatically going to turn the flight director on as well. So let's go ahead and let's flight director. So we know we are going to be going up or doing something. What's that something? Well, we want to look at the departure chart. So when we look at that departure chart, we're going to see that it tells us all the information we need, transition altitude, and of course it's written, takeoff of runway. So you have to follow it. You're tracking out not below 1100 as directed by Monterey Tower. So basically you're going to fly out 278. We will be above 1100 feet before we make a heading turn to intercept the 329 radial that goes out towards Shui. So that's kind of your standard takeoff. So now we want to dial in our altitude. So we go ahead and we want 9,000. So much easier with physical knobs. So 9,000 is what we're going to climb up to. Now, because we're on a heading right now, I generally like to sync the heading bug. So sync the heading bug so it's straight ahead of us. That way, on takeoff, we're already flying, and if we switch over to heading, it's going to be in front of us. So I've got our heading, we've got our climb, roll and pitch. This is because we are going to show that you can hit the toga button if you know how to press it. Now we're going to climb on up. When we reach 9,000, it should altitude select for us. We're going to use flight level change when we get in the air. You could use VS. I like flight level change. Let's go ahead and prepare for takeoff. Go ahead and get our parking brake off. We've got our flight plan entered. We are heading down the runway up to 9,000. We're going to put our feet on the brakes. Start getting that power going. I'm going to hit the toga button. And you will see that the pitch and roll does point up. Ailerons into the wind. So hard to do staring at. All right. So there we go. There's our pitch and our climb. So we're flying those pitch director bars. And so at this point, we're going to go ahead and we're going to arm nav mode, which since we're on it, it grabbed it directly. And then we're going to go into flight level change mode and we'll set for 120. And whoa, trim. Let's get the flaps up. Let's get the gear up.
Don't sink.
All right, there we go. So, and autopilot comes on. All right, so now the autopilot's going to fly this. That was a horrible takeoff. I don't care. So now the autopilot has it flight level change. So it's going to climb with 120 knots all the way up. So now we can start bringing back the power. So there you go. We are on the climb out. We are on the GPS. Autopilot flight level change 120. So it's going to maintain 120. And so our VS will change as it goes. And now as we're climbing, we can start adding a little more throttle back in as our manifold pressure starts to diminish. At this point, we are just managing it. We'll go ahead and jump forward in time. And we're cutting the corner at Shui for tag. As we are coming up to our top of climb at 9,000. There we go. We get the blinky green. 9,000 it is. And altitude is now active. And we complete our turn. And now we join the Victor Airway on our way down to KSNS. Well, at this point, we might as well tune in ATIS, see if we hear anything.
Latest airport information, Golf 2000 Zulu. Wind 306 at 7. Visibility 10. Sky condition clear. Temperature 21. Dew point 10. Altimeter 29.96. ILS runway 31 in use. Landing and departing runway 31. VFR aircraft say direction of flight.
All right.
All aircraft read back hold short instruction.
2996, we'll get rid of that. So we have the correct baro, and as you can see, the plane righted itself after the baro adjustments and brought itself smoothly back down to 9,000. All right, so we're going to go ahead. We're going to take the Victor Airway all the way down, and we'll jump back with you momentarily. Okay, so we're on our way to KMRY. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a quick look at our chart. And, well, you can see us headed on here on our way down to the Big Sur VOR. We've got that. Final approach course will be 312, 3,400 feet, 440. We've already got that in. Touchdown elevation zone, 82 feet. Missed approach, climb 3,000 direct MAFAF. A left-hand turn, 267 to Marna and hold. We know that. All right, so at Wiggle, we want to be at 6,000 feet and then 3,440. But this is where we're going to use VNAV and see how VNAV gets us down. So it looks like we're going to be, we'll use 7,300. So that's where our VNAV will start to take us down to. All right, so we've got our chart. We see what's going on with the chart. Let's go ahead and let's throw it onto the map. You can see us going down, and then we're going to set up for that portion of the approach. We can see already we're getting a magenta 7,300, so that's our first restriction. If we look at our procedure, at this point, we may or may not be cleared to the approach. Might take a little bit longer, so we'd be much further along. We've got another 16 miles to run. We'll say they're having a good day and they're already going to clear us to the approach. So in that case, because we're cleared to the approach, we want to go ahead and activate the approach. So now the approach is active, and you see we are now direct to the Big Sur VOR, and we saw the magenta line still there. So we're direct to Big Sur, and we can go ahead and turn down our altitude selector to 7,300. Now we could put it lower because it's going to stop at 7,300. We could go ahead and put it all the way down to 3,400 at this point, which is where we're going to pick up the glide slope at the FAF of Ivuvi. So now that we've done that, we can arm VNAV. So we've got our VPath armed. 9,000 is what we're at until it gets to that top of descent donut. It's not going to follow the path and start its way down. And currently it shows the bottom of descent at OUs at 7,300. And so if you look at the flight plan and we scroll down. Oh, you can't see it here. Okay. Whatever, let's get rid of that. Look over here. So there we go. So there you can see that it's left 9,000, which is our cruising altitude for BSR. And then we'll use the IAF 7,300. So then wiggle at 6,000, and then the FAF of IVUV is at 3,400 feet. So that's why we dialed in 3,400. It's going to stop at these constraints on its own anyway. So yeah, we're just going to hang out here for a little bit longer, and we'll see you just before top of descent. Okay, so we're just a couple miles from the top of descent. So at this point, we are waiting on the counter, and then it will give us the V path, and it will then start down. So you can see the vertical bar is now alive. We've got our VNAV, which is the arrow or the V turned sideways instead of a diamond, which is a glide path. So that's coming down. It's one dot above us right now, and it's showing us what it's calculating for the VS that it needs to stay on that path. So now V path is active, and altitude V is now what we've got in our armed mode. So at this point, we're now direct to, we're just going to bring the power back a little bit so we don't overspeed. So at this point, we're now direct to our IAF. We've been cleared to the approach. So I would go ahead. You can do this later if you want, but at this point, I'm ahead of the plane. There's no reason not to. So I'm going to arm approach mode. So that would have been by pressing the approach mode button. And you'll notice we don't get an armed lateral mode. This is an RNAV GPS approach. So it doesn't have a different type of navigation that it needs to arm, like VOR or localizer if we were doing an ILS. So instead, it's going to stay GPS. It's already captured that part of the approach mode. And now the glide path is armed so that when we see the diamond and it starts coming in, we'll be able to automatically intercept, and then it'll transition into glide path mode. So here we are. You'll notice we are approaching OUs. 7,300 is the VPath constraint. So it's calculated it so that right at OUs, it would be at 7,300. So we're bang on. You can see that altitude V is now capturing at 7,300 feet. And when we cross, you'll see that our constraint has dropped to 6,000. You could see the V path and the new top of descent coming in. And because we're below it with our altitude selector at 3,400, it is going to arm and capture again. So we don't have to press any buttons. We don't have to turn VNAV back on. It's going to take care of this for us. Of course, we're going to manage our power since we leveled off. And in comes our mode. Now that's strange that it went right through. Why did that happen? So now our V path is below us. So we're going to have to use VS to get ourselves back down onto it. Let's just get our mouse away from our autopilot controls. Hopefully we didn't accidentally bump something. So currently we are not descending fast enough, and we're going to pull the power. There we go. Okay, now it's got the path again. So 34, not sure why that went away again. So let's go ahead and let's VNAV again. All right, so we are now V-pathing down. All right. But now our diamond is below us. So we're going to arm approach mode. I think this is similar to the same issue we had. This is not actually an LPV. This is an LNAV plus V. And it seems like these, they give you the 3-degree glide slope, but when the top of descent gets calculated, it's afterwards, as opposed to a VNAV where you usually dive and drive. So when you look at that chart real quick, normally you come down faster and then you come into it from below. That 3-degree path is going to carry on, and it might actually be higher than at wiggle. Hence the problem we've got, which is now as we're coming back in, we're above that diamond. So we're actually going to have to get ourselves, we're going to VS down to 3,400, but we're actually going to go so that we get the diamond above us. Because it's actually about to capture, and it just captured that glide path at 4,600 all the way out. So this is another example where VNAV to the FAF isn't necessarily a good option for that. And so now we are GPS autopilot glide path. We're on the diamond, but it's still showing a VNAV vertical bar, not a G with the solid magenta diamond, which is what it should be on. So this is turning into more of a bug report than it is just about how to fly the G1000 NXi with the RNAV 31 into Salinas, which again is not an LPV, so that kind of could have a thing to do with it. We probably would have caught back up to the glide path because we would have been here at the same altitude. It's just a little strange that the VNAV and the glide path is, you're going to see that glide path. So at the FAF, they're now flipping over to the full diamond glide path intercepted, even though technically we intercepted the glide path already, and it probably should have flipped once glide path was armed. But now we're on our way down, and it's basically going to fly it. So let's go ahead and start slowing down a bit. We'll get the gear out. All right, first stage flaps. And yes, we would have had flaps configured a long time ago, but then it would be really slow getting in here. Looking for 440 feet for minimums. It's 500 feet above ground. Minimums. Oh, this is hard to fly. Middle marker. Yeah, I need to be up here. Tough on that turn. All right, well, that'll do it for this one. Hopefully it showed people some stuff. Anyway, if you liked the video, hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed, feel free to subscribe. Otherwise, just enjoy it. Anyway, as always, thanks for watching. Have a nice day.